Hello and welcome everyone to CultCast, the podcast that unravels the fascinating world of brands, marketing, and the creative leaders that shape them. In our first season, we'll explore the ROI of creativity and how investing in creative talents can drive business growth. I'm your host, Shimei Wong, and we're here today to unpack how design and visual storytelling can impact a company's success. Here with me to discuss this topic is Adzam Bahrin, who is no stranger to this topic. With more than a decade of experience as a creative director in companies such as Burnett, MNC Saatchi, Naga DDB, it is second nature for him to think about how to create visual storytelling that will not only be memorable but also profitable in the long run. Currently serving as the regional creative director at GrowthOps, Adzam leads the entire creative division and its growth across Malaysia and Singapore markets while building creative offerings for the company's media, tech, and consultancy divisions. I'm so excited to have his thought process. I'm going to dig into how he thinks about visual storytelling. So welcome here, Adzam.
Hi, Charmaine. Thank you. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me. That was quite... Thank you for the intro. I was like, wow, I sounded really impressive then.
That's the thing about creatives, right? You do so much creative work. You just kind of like, next project, you forget like all this accumulation of like accolades that you've done, right?
Yeah, like whenever I go back and have to like spruce up my portfolio, I at the end of it, I'm like, actually not bad, lah. Okay lah. Not that bad lah. It's like, oh, I forgot I had that one. The totality of it was like, okay lah. I guess that could impress some people.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna send you a copy of this little script I did about your bio, okay, so you can sell to people.
Oh, sure.
All right, can you start by explaining what visual storytelling is and why it's important for businesses today?
Okay, I think that's a really good question to start off, right? I think for me, and this is just, I think my point of view, right? Answering from like my experience, visual storytelling in essence is like a way to communicate without using words, right? That sounds really basic, but essentially, I think like for a lot of people like myself, some of us are very visual people. And sometimes when you speak words, they're trying to relay your intention or your messages, that could be interpreted by different people. So visual storytelling is a way to really enhance that, to bring it to the next level. And I think like add, of course, a lot of character, a lot of detail, a lot of nuances that you wouldn't get with just talking or verbatim, right? So I think it's really important for businesses to sort of take advantage of that, because I think, especially if you're a consumer-based business, right? You're speaking to your audiences and consumers. It's a way to connect on a deeper level, because you're talking to them as people, as humans, and not just as like, as targets. So when you're using visual, for me, it really kind of like establishes a better connection that I think can make people feel like they know you, right? As like, for instance, like I know a lot of us watch a lot of movies, right? A lot of films, and all of us have a lot of favorite directors. I feel like I know my favorite directors in a way, because I've seen a lot of work. I've seen like how they want to do things, how they execute stuff. So I think that you can try to establish that here and there with visual storytelling, of course. Yeah.
Amazing way to tell it. So this is almost beyond just seeing, but it's also feeling, a lot of experiences that comes with it, right? So next question is, how does design play a role in the process of visual storytelling?
So this is, I think, starts to get into the trick of like what we do, right? One of our projects this past year was for like a sort of a design body in Singapore. It was sort of like a proposal, and they really delve into sort of like what is design, right? I think most people think design is just a poster or like logo. Design is really interesting because it's really into, if you have intention and you do anything with purpose, that is design in essence. So doesn't have to be just visual. You can design behavior, you can design systems, you can design organizations. So I think when visual, there's a lot of things that goes into it in terms of what you want people to feel, how you want it to look, what colors, what emotions you want it to invoke. So that's where design comes in. It's like you have to think about what is it you're trying to do, what you're trying to say, how do you want people to sort of like interpret your intention. That whole process is design. So a lot of people put a lot of time into it. A lot of people can just do it within like 4 or 5 minutes and like, it comes out great. But I think as long as sort of like you put intention and you have a goal in mind and you sort of have somewhat of an idea of how to do it, that's design to it.
That's such a great way to explain, because I was just thinking about, creativity and ROI, right? Like, how do you track ROI with creativity? And I think talking about intention and hitting objectives, if your design hits objectives and, that sort of impact, that sort of thing are measurable instead of just, like you said, a beautiful poster, a beautiful logo. That's great. Could you give us some examples of successful visual storytelling from companies that you admire?
So I've done a few like TVCs and brand films, right? And the ones that are my favorite are usually the ones that don't have a lot of dialogue, you know? Sometimes I think in our region when we do like commercials and films, I think we tend to like over narrate stuff because we're so afraid of like consumers missing the message, right? So I think like my favorite ones are always like films or commercials or videos that barely has any, text or copy or voiceover. So a good example is that it's like what John Lewis does, right, with their festive ads. They never have any dialogue. They always use like a really nice song that intertwines the storytelling that's happening. I really love the one they did like this past year. If you guys could want to check it out. It's about like a father who takes up skateboarding because they're adopting a kid and he wants to do it because he wants to relate to the kid. And the whole thing just plays over an acoustic version of a Blink 182 song, right? So it was just, I think, like really beautifully done. So I really love stuff like that, like John Lewis. IKEA is like another way to do it, right? Because I really like what they do, because what they do is they take their essence of their company, which is very modular, very minimal, very clean, right? And they really like do it everywhere they do on all their digital platforms, on their app, on their website, on their posters. I mean, when you go into IKEA, it feels like you're walking into a poster. So they really do a good job of just establishing that clean Swedish, Scandinavian look all throughout. They've been using the same copy, the same colors for like 30 years, so that's of course one of my favorites. And they even apply it to like streetwear and fashion. So it shows like, when you really plan something out and evolve it, it can go a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Such good examples. I think what I hear from
thanks.
what you're
Yeah.
trying to say is, these brands showcase these storytelling so well is because they're so clear on that brand personality, that vibe, like when you say just now the Blink 182 skater, they are so
Yeah.
clear with the brand vibe, brand persona, or the keywords, So I think as a brand, having very clear persona, that sort of identity, then you can pick those and create that consistency with the storytelling, right? With the posters, with the ads,
Yeah.
with the store experience, right? Like what you say, it's a 360 holistic experience through very clear brand identity and a vibe. Cool.
Yeah. I think just to add on, I think like the kind of important thing is that once you do it well and people like it, then you kind of know you're going in the right direction, and that way it allows you to kind of like take it farther and farther and farther until to the point of it becomes like really just like almost like art, and iconic.
How can a business start integrating visual storytelling into their branding and marketing strategies? I think I briefly touched about it just now, but I think Adzam is the pro to speak about this. How can, yeah.
How can they integrate? I think a lot of people skip is doing research, contrasting what you want to do with what your competitors and what the market is doing. That's what they should do right first. And then I don't really know. I'm trying to answer this, but I'm not like a business person, so I'm gonna answer it from like my point of view, right? So once you sort of like do the research and you establish like what's your visual storytelling you want to do, then you kind of have to like hire an expert to see how they can work across all the different platforms, like films, all your digital products, your social content. And I think I can touch on this a bit here. It gets harder and harder the bigger the company is, right? In my experience, I think when you have a small startup or a small e-commerce site, it's really easy to establish your identity, as you already said, right? What you want to do, and then it's easier to kind of like create something cool and something people like. As companies get bigger and bigger, they have a lot more divisions and a lot more people that needs to like say yes to what their part of the business is. It becomes a lot harder to kind of like establish, something that's definite, that's something that people can relate to because there's so much moving parts. So I think in establishing your strategy, you have to really adjust for like what your business is, because it's really hard to kind of like have a cohesive, look and feel in terms of visual storytelling. As you can see, like there's been advertising and branding for like 80 years, and you can probably name like 10 companies on your hand, the people that really do it well. So I think it's really, really hard. Yeah.
You actually segue to my next question, which is what
Oh.
common mistakes do businesses make when trying to leverage visual storytelling, and how can they avoid these?
Mistakes, I would say, I don't know. Mistakes, I think proper planning is something that is usually like something that could be done better. And I think trusting your agency, trusting your creatives, right, is something I think a lot of businesses struggle with. It's because like, they have a certain way or something they do, they want to, I think, put into the world, but I think creatives have a way of thinking and doing it. And sometimes when those things don't really align well, businesses try to tend to take over and just kind of like, this is my money, I want to do it that way, which is fine. I think there's nothing wrong with that. So I think as part of creatives' jobs also is to, build that trust. And, I think only with trust and teamwork, I think that, businesses can really, make this happen. I think I just saw a quote on LinkedIn by someone, I forgot, but he said like creativity is a team sport, right? So I think that really rings well today. I think it's Ronald. And
Nice. I think also I want to add to your point when it comes to creatives trying to fight with the business side of things, right? I think having a strong case, and it goes back to like your process, that creative process, right? How did you come up with this? Was through the process of your business objectives, was through this. I think also, I don't know about you, Adzam, but I realized that, we need to start teaching young creatives to talk about the process more instead of beyond just showing
yeah,
just, oh, look, this is what I designed, and there's no why, what did it really hit the goals, or was it just beautiful in your eyes lah? So process, and like you
yeah,
say, then you can have a stronger like case, right, against the suits.
no, definitely. Like I think like I love like learning about businesses and like what it takes and like getting the point of view of clients and what they think. I mean, clients want collaboration. Like they really like they when I talk to a lot of clients, right, and they're speaking about my teams, they're like, I wish they asked more questions. I wish they trial and error more. I don't want them to just do what I tell them to do. So it's always sort of like an issue there. But I think, of course, like you said, I really encourage like young creatives to really understand why brands do stuff, why companies do stuff. I think it will really help you as you progress in your career, definitely.
You just segue again to my next question. How important it is to align your visual storytelling with the overall business goals?
Okay, I think from a business point of view, visual storytelling might at first, I think when dealing with margins and P&Ls, visual storytelling can seem like probably like fourth tier, right? In terms of like your hierarchy of needs, in terms of like where you want your business to grow. And it might seem trivial if you're a business owner, right? Because especially in today's social media age where everything like looks the same, right? They feel that like 1,000 companies, 1,000 brands can do it. It's really simple. I can just take that. Doesn't really matter anyway. People will just like look at it and they'll as long as they see my logo is fine and the pictures look good. I mean, I'm sure there's nothing wrong with that. There's other factors that affect the profitability of your business. But I think if you really invest and really spend time and making sure your visual storytelling is cut through the clutter and sort of like gets eyeballs and it rises above and it attracts people in a way that other brands then don't. I think it really brings value. The thing is, I think with creativity and visual, it's hard, like you said, it's hard to define ROI, right? So I think I understand for business owners, it's hard to sort of like put a price on that. Like, I can just spend money to build my team. Why I have to do all these things? But so I understand the struggle, but I think if you do it well and you do it, you do it successfully, it can really put you over your competitors. So that's, I feel like it's not so important, but like if you do it well, it'll become the most important thing. It's, I think, the best answer.
Totally agree. This is why we do Cult Creative and CultCast. We want to tell them that if this is the value of creativity and storytelling. Looking to the future, how do you see the role of visual storytelling in the business evolving?
So I mean, looking through your questions, this is probably the one that excited me the most. So I think back in the start of the year, like AI was just like still not that good. I was still using like DALL-E, right? And like I can use it for storyboards lah, right? Like good for storyboards. Now we're at the point where like it's so good, and now there's more tools to like automate stuff where I can like push out like 500 sizes from one key visual using Firefly, generative fill, Photoshop beta, AI beta. I think that's like is probably the most exciting thing that's been happening in the creative world, probably since like maybe when Photoshop first came, right? Because I think it changes everything, right? It changes the floor. Now everybody can get to a certain level, and it changes the ceiling because now like if you know what you're doing, right, you have more tools and more like functions to work with. So I'm super. Part of me is like, wow, at least I made it to like creative director level, because it helps. At least I don't have to like really worry about that. I know like a lot of designers worry about that kind of stuff, but I would tell them like, just like just learn the tools and make it, master it, and you can be fine. But I think in terms of where we're going, I think like visual storytelling will become just super refined because you can draft better, you can generate better, you can kind of. I think that probably creativity. I know I'm rambling here a bit, but I think with the creativity, sometimes it's hard to like point where you're going because you're making it as you go, right? But I think with AI, you can really draft exactly the pathway, and it's easier to kind of see your way to the end. So I think it'll just result in way better work overall. And I'm excited because in the region, our workplace production level is usually not as good as compared to international levels, right? I think with AI, it will allow this region, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, to really like get on that international level and really compete with like, the Paris, London, New York. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see where we're going. You just have to get over that hurdle of like, here comes another challenge. I have to get over it. I think once you just pass that and own up and just try to learn and try to master it, I think you'll be really excited and you'll be glad that you did. So I encourage everybody to like get on it.
I love the energy, and I love that you're saying that it should be a mindset shift, right? You shouldn't see it as a challenge, but instead use it to how you can better your creative process. That's so amazing, Adzam. You ended the podcast in such a great way. So thank you so much, Adzam, for your insightful thoughts. We're so happy we managed to squeeze in some time to dissect your wealth of knowledge in the importance of design and visual storytelling in a business. And that wraps up our episode of CultCast. If you like what you see, follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. We'll be sharing more episodes with different leaders in branding, marketing, and creative industry. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and thank you so much, Adzam.
Thanks, Herman. Thanks for having me.